Shannon.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to find the mute. So, you know what I'd like to do, Diana, is connect you with my colleague at the Maryland Department of Agriculture, and they would be exactly the person you'd want to talk to on that. And I'll just connect you via email. No problem whatsoever.
All right, thank you so much. For those that are joining, good afternoon.
Sorry, Megan, this second link that I just put in the chat is the one that has all of the open meetings links under meetings and events.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, and so everyone knows this meeting is being recorded officially now. We can go ahead and get started with some general announcements while others trickle in. My name is Annika Lefebvre. I am the Food Systems Resilience Coordinator with the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. Hi, Beth. And this is the Distribution and Access Committee with the Maryland Food System Resiliency Council. Today, we are lucky to have Megan Christian with us from Misfits Market, as well as Shannon McDonald from the Maryland Department of Environment, talking about wasted food rescue and food diversion, also equitable food access. So kind of a broad topic today. We can go ahead and just cover some quick announcements. Go ahead, Diana.
No, can we just have everyone sign in the chat, if you don't mind?
Thank you, Diana. I always forget. Please go ahead and put your name and your organization in the chat to help us know who is here. Thank you. On Monday of this week, we have a Food is Medicine, or next week, we have a Food is Medicine Lunch and Learn. That's from 12 to 1:30. You can access that through the council's website under meetings and events. It should be an engaging discussion with 3 panelists we're excited to hear from. The Communication and Coordination Committee is also meeting tomorrow morning with all of the local food councils. Anyone is welcome to attend, not just the food councils, but we are excited to officially launch into having the CNC committee serve as this touch point across the local jurisdictions. The Environment and Production Committee is not meeting again until January, and our next meeting for distribution and access will be January 23rd. There's the Lunch and Learn flyer. And you know what? I didn't put a slide in to invite Meg and Diana to say a few words of welcome. So I'll turn it over to our chair and co-chair.
Well, you've done such a wonderful job, and please, everyone that is attending, Meg and I both would like to welcome you. We truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and spend some time with us. And then I'll turn it over to Meg to see if she wants to say anything additional.
Yeah, thanks, Diana. I just want to say hi to everyone again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for going on this learning journey with us. We've been doing a deep dive over the last several meetings around some of the key issues in the statute. And so it's been a really wonderful experience, and a big shout out to Annika for her hard work and diligence behind the scenes to help bring all our speakers together. So it should be another great session. Thanks for being here.
And I just want to add, if you came on late, please introduce yourself in the chat.
Great, thank you both so much. And Megan, if it works for you, we have you up first. So thank you so much for joining us, and I will stop sharing my screen so that you can share.
All right, can everyone see my screen? Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored and just so welcome that you are all taking the time to hear about our company. Really great to hear that things like this happen. You know, a lot of time we don't see those things from the outside. So I'm really so grateful that there are however many people, 20 people in this room talking about how to combat food waste in Maryland. That just really warms my heart. I'm a lifelong Maryland resident. I grew up, born and raised in Baltimore City. So very, very, very grateful to hear that. So here you go. Misfits Market, so honored to be here at your meeting. We do here like to start all of our meetings off with our mission statement. I just thought I would read this for y'all just so you can see what our agenda is as a company. Our mission is to reduce food waste and to make shopping sustainable, high quality groceries easier and more affordable. Our vision is to reimagine a food system and build a sustainable system that eliminates food waste. We try to make a different approach to food. We're not your typical grocery store. One, we're all online, so there's no brick and mortar place that you can go shop. Another thing is we really look to have an assortment that is unique and also is aligned with our values. One of our biggest things is just in traditional grocery stores, the amount of waste that comes from those. I'm sure that a lot of them do a lot of work with y'all and the teams that are on this meeting to make sure that their foods go to less than more desirable outcomes, but we really work hard with brand partnerships, the way that we source our product and the way that we do with our product that we don't have and don't sell at the end of the week. That's really what I'm going to focus my time on, is just those three things, because that's really how we work to combat food waste at Misfits Market. Abhi Ramesh is our founder. The whole idea of Misfits Market started off by him apple picking with some friends. He saw all the apples that were on the ground that were going to waste, and he asked what was going to be done with them, and they didn't really know. It really ended up to being composted or tossed and fed to pigs. So he started off a little organization in the new Northeast out of Philly that he just started connecting with farms, saying, hey, what are you not selling? How can I help distribute this? And that's how Misfits Market started. In 2002, Misfits Markets acquired Imperfect Foods, and we have been just building together since then. We've saved 210 plus million pounds of food from lesser outcomes since 2015, which is just such a great feat. And I'm really think that's on brand and what all of you are looking to do. So this is across our whole network. This isn't just in Maryland. In some slides going forward, I put some more relative to Maryland information. I want to spend some time here because this is one of our most important things. It is our sourcing strategy. We get things that are too big and too small. Sometimes that means sweet potatoes that can be 5 or 6 pounds, or ones that are less than a half a pound. Limes that can range from as big as a golf ball to as small as a key lime. So we really look to find things that don't fit traditional grocery store specs and find a home. Leftover pieces. This is something that we often don't realize. We have a great product, odds and ends bacon, that is just the end cut of the bacon pieces. It's really great for salads. It's really great for pastas, for any kind of thing that you would cut up your bacon anyway. So we work to package that and sell it and give it a home. Things that are slightly discolored, cauliflower that might be too green or might have a little bit of browning at the end, all things that are very good to eat, but traditional customers, they don't want to see that in a grocery store. So we work to find a home with that. Near Best Buys. Sometimes vendors will reach out to us and say, hey, we have this surplus of product that is near Best Buy. So they offer it to us, and then we offer it to our customers at a discount and get to pass on that savings and divert this food that could otherwise be thrown away. Extra inventory is self-explanatory. Sometimes forecasting and sales don't match up, so we help find an outlet there. Packaging changes are things that before I started working here, I never even thought of. Sometimes people rebrand things and want to look different, and we get to purchase the product that they don't want in storefronts with their old brand and get to sell it to our customers too. And then upcycled, is something that we've really been focused on through our brand partnership, is just finding unique outlets for leftover products that otherwise would go to waste, whether it's broken rice pieces or it's flour that is a byproduct of making something else. We really work hard to look and find brand partnerships with vendors that have unique like values like us. Any questions here? Really, this slide, I would encourage y'all, when y'all are in the grocery store and doing your own thing, think about these things. Misshapen limes don't do anything to the inside. They taste just as great. So these are really good summary of how we source. This is a little bit more about how we look into some of our produce and our opportunity buys, shape, surface imperfection, surplus, our own private label that works to find outlets for products that would otherwise go to waste. How we rescue our produce. So we work with a great network of vendors across the whole country, some here in Maryland, that to help find outlets for their cosmetic imperfections or size regularities. This is an example of baby broccoli that is flowering. You see those cute little yellow flowers. They're perfectly safe and fine to eat. We were able to pass this on to a discount to our customers and also help the vendor find an outlet for this product that they could not sell in the grocery store. Here are some of our co-branded SKUs. These are companies that we work with that are like-minded and working to find outlets for products that would otherwise go to waste. We have Belgian Boys and Petite Pots, and of these you might recognize. Here is our private label. These are really cool. Broken rice, pretzel pieces, grapefruits that are scarred, rescued pumpkins. These are the ingredients that are going into these products. And it's things that you don't even think about that are when you're traditionally buying rice in the store, that there's a bunch of rice that aren't the right size and it's going somewhere. So we work at Misfits to provide an outlet for those. We really work to just work on quality, discovery, and sustainability. Here are some places that we've been featured and some feedback from our customers. The biggest one I like here is this middle one. A big part of our customer base are people that do not have access to grocery stores and don't have access to the kind of food that we offer. So we're able to ship through a delivery network all across the country to those places that could be considered food deserts. So that's how we do our sourcing, which I think is a big part of our company and our mission, is to make sure just the product coming in the door is aligned with not wasting food. And then it's what we do with the product once it gets here. Here at BWI, we are currently working towards our Zero True Waste initiative, a gold certification. We've been working on it since 2023. Here's a picture of our green team, just a map of our facility. All those dots are different waste streams that we have to make sure that our product and our waste is getting sorted. We have 10 different waste streams in our facility. Some examples are donations, wood scraps, compost, those kinds of things. We also invest in a green team. This is comprised of representatives from each of our departments, so that we can work together to get our path to zero waste. Really, we just work to support each other and to develop new ideas to move us forward. Giving back to the community, our donation program is one of the things that I am most proud of that we do. Our community partners come and pick up from our facility. We help them load. We have a wide range of donation partners, from people that service food pantries to community drop-offs to animal farms, all across the board, to just make sure that our donation partners are diverse and we have an outlet to get as much as we possibly can into someone's hands. In the past 60 days out of the BWI facility, we've donated 100,000 plus pounds of food, and saved it from lesser outcomes from our donation programs alone. That doesn't count any of our zero waste or any of that other stuff. I want to take a second here to highlight some of our donation partners who do really great work across the state of Maryland. You've probably heard of some of these. Small Things Matter. Roxanne is a force. Her organization provides food to insecure families all across the Rockville, Tacoma Park, Silver Spring area. She services about 2,000 people annually, 500 families. We are blessed to be one of her biggest partners, and we've worked with her over the past 3 years. This is just a snippet of what she said about us. Our partnership with Misfits Market is vital to our mission in serving those in need, because we are a small grassroots organization without much funding. Our donations account for over half of the food that they distribute to support 500 families in need. Working together, we're improving the lives of these families by providing them with healthy food options that has had a positive effects on their health and their family. Food Rescue. Food Rescue is a national network. We work with a couple of the local chapters. They're a volunteer-driven organization. Really, their main, they service food pantries, food banks, shelters, a wide variety of people. And then here is something that It's cute because look, it's a horse and a goat eating a watermelon. But Cheryl's Rescue Ranch, the woman who runs this organization is a lifetime Oderden resident. She really works her life to provide livestock animals a nice place to live at the end of their lives. She relies on solely donation. So our produce that isn't necessarily fit for human consumption, we save it and put it there and make sure that she can give it to all of her cute animals. And she's really dedicated her time and knowledge, just educating the community on farm animal rescue. That's really all I had. Thank you so much for your time and for hearing me.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Meg?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Megan. That was awesome. Thanks for walking us through that. Can you talk a little bit about the overall size of the company in terms of, you talked about the origin story. How much food are you sourcing and distributing on an annual basis? And kind of like, and one of the things that's really different for most of us, I would say, is that we're not as connected into the for purchase, the sale market, right? Commercial sale of food. So if you could speak a little bit about that, how that works, how many customers you have, and just even the general kind of financial health of the company. I know that sometimes, you know, businesses that have a social enterprise approach or, you know, are mission driven can struggle a little bit more, you know, to find a profitable footing. So just as much as you can share around that would be of interest. There are like 6 questions baked in there. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I was like, let me make sure that I get them.
It's fine.
Well,
I'm sorry, but what you don't get, someone else will ask.
In terms of financial health of our company, we have really like you said, when you're mission driven, you kind of you output a lot, right? So profitability isn't always the easiest thing to achieve. We are working towards that right now, our company, but we expected it. We are right on the road. Our goal is path to profitability by 2026. We've met all of our markers that would help us get there. Really aggressive goals, but also making sure we're keeping true to our mission, because like you said, that's what sets us apart. Anyone can go to the grocery store and buy any of the things that we have in our online marketplace. But the fact that we have a mission behind it, the fact that you help save food from lesser outcome, that you can help our donation partners, that's all what makes us special. So we really work hard to, when we're doing our planning meeting, we just had one for 2025 to keep that. Let's make sure that profitability is very important. It's because we want to keep doing the good that we're doing, but also let's make sure that our mission stays true. And I think we've done a really great job of that. Really, it's just staying true to the mission is just about resources too. Like, we've built these relationships with these people in the community so that we can keep doing that. Giving the food that we can't sell is, while labor it might take a lot, it doesn't cost any money except for what I have to pay employees to do it, and just what the good it does, you know. So really focusing on those things that we can keep, those partnerships, things that don't cost a ton of money but make a huge impact. And I see this every week and it makes a huge impact. Customer wise, we have 4 facilities across the country. Baltimore is where I'm located. I'm in Hanover. We have a facility in Los Angeles. We have a facility in San Antonio, and we have a facility in Chicago. Really, if you think about where they're all located, they're strategically placed across the country to be able to access the whole country. So our network, we pretty much are able to cover the whole 48 states. We aren't able to get to Hawaii or any of that. In terms of customer base, when we acquired Misfits Market, when Misfits Market acquired Imperfect Foods, our customer base grew to I don't want to butcher this, but I would say it's close to 500,000. I would say. Don't quote me on that though. Give me some wiggle room. BWI, our facility services about 40% of that whole customer base. So we are our largest facility. I got two of the questions, right? What were the other ones? I'm so sorry.
I think the other one was just sort of overall volume.
Yeah, volume, we serve out of this facility, we serve about 30,000 customers a week. Our LA facility is comparable, and then our Chicago and San Antonio facilities are about the same. So I'd say about that many 90,000 customers a week. Some of these are weekly customers, some of these are bi-weekly customers, some of these are monthly customers. The description is really tailored to your needs. So that's the impact that we're getting across the whole network here is about 30,000 a week.
Fantastic. Thank you.
For sure.
And we have a question in the chat from Carol Jones. Carol, I might ask you, if you don't mind coming off mute, to elaborate a little bit more about your question. I can read it out loud though. How much of the food you sell is procured through standard channels, i.e. standard quality? Is there an imperative for standard procurement to complement imperfect foods in order to supply the promised food bundles to your customers?
Yeah, great question. We do offer both. So to be able to be a grocery store and to be competitive, we do have to have an assortment. So we can't just solely rely on product that is wouldn't otherwise be sold. So we do mix up our product. We make it very clear on our website what is upcycled, what is a rescue buy, what has an imperfection, and what is just a regular product. We aim to have about 30% of our assortment to be mission aligned, as we would say. So whether it's that slide with the little stickers that said upcycled, misshapen, those things to be in one of those buckets. And we do a pretty good job of hitting that goal.
I have one for you, Megan. So I was curious, like how you set up partnerships with food producers and like how far food is traveling from like food producers to the end customer. Is it localized around your various hubs, or are we talking about like a national internal supply chain?
It's again both. So because of how we do our buys from a farmer, let's say a farmer will, let's use the broccoli example, the baby broccoli that was flowering. A farmer in Connecticut might reach out to us and say, hey, we have this huge surplus of flowering broccoli. We're going to buy that and distribute to all of our distribution centers. So in that instance, it would be a network kind of, we're getting it across the board. We work as hard as we can to source as close as possible. So we definitely have different vendors than the West Coast would have for some products, but because of the nature of how we buy, we want to buy and offer the assortment to all of our customers. Grocery products are another big one. I focused a lot of energy on produce, but grocery products are one that is going to be shipped across the whole country depending on the whole vendor. We have great relationships with some local companies here like Lancaster and Taylor Farms, and ones that we work and we buy from here. We had a really cool farm that was offering these sea beans on the Eastern Shore for a while. I wish I remembered what they were called. But we do work hard to have those development, to have those relationships with local places local to our FCs.
The question, because the online shopping, does it accept SNAP benefits?
Yeah, we do. And that's something that we also work with Food as Medicine, which is something that you had mentioned earlier, a partner to distribute food to people. We have a huge hub in like the Appalachians that we work with them to get food boxes delivered to, because those people don't have access to grocery stores like how we do. Yeah, sorry.
No, thank you. And in regards to imperfect food, because we're also interested in addressing food insecurity and getting food into low-income areas, especially fresh fruits and produce. How does someone reach out and become a member? How do you become affiliated with Imperfect Food to be able to come and receive some of that?
Absolutely. You can contact me, and then I can put you in the right place. We just work to make sure that the place is mission aligned with us. It's a very little vetting process, and then what are the needs, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we try to have a diverse donation partners so that we can be able to give stuff to animal farms and give stuff to people that can turn it quickly if we have something that's going to be expired in the next couple of days. So really it's just about what are their needs, making sure it aligns, and then we go forward. But we have a lot of resources that that could find a home.
And are products available weekly, or is it monthly?
So weekly, for produce, weekly. So at the end of every sellable week, we assess what is okay to be moved over, and then things that aren't going to make it, we donate. So it's weekly on that end. That's for produce. Grocery wise, it's more of it just happens as it happens. Like things are nearing expiration, and then we contact and reach out to our partners and say, hey, we have a pallet of eggs, or we have this, can you get it somewhere? And then we go from there. So those are more like opportunity and not on a regular schedule.
Anyone have any questions? Jocelyn?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just circling back to the customers who are able to pay with SNAP. Do you waive or reduce any fees, such as for delivery, anything associated with purchasing the products if they're using SNAP benefits? Or how is that conversation unfolding?
For sure. I would like to get some more info, and Anika or someone, if I could share that program info with y'all, just to see how it works. I am not quite sure about how you would go. I don't think that it would be a discount. I think that you would be able to use your benefits, but let me get some more info on that and I can pass it on. Anika, Diana, would you all be the right people to pass that on to?
Yeah,
You can send it to Annika.
you can email it to me and I'll forward it. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
if it's helpful, I know that Baltimore has a program that's recently gone through this with Giant, Amazon, and I think another supplier as well, where they were able to kind of technologically work through removing fees associated with orders that were being paid through benefits. So if that's a helpful connection, we may be able to connect you with that. If that hearing about their process for doing that on the back end is helpful.
For sure. And this is definitely a program that we've been developing more and more. Our work with food as medicine was really where we started with that. So I'll pass on the details. And Annika, I'm so sorry for saying your name. I apologize.
Believe me, I'm used to it.
And would you be able to share your slide presentation?
Yep, I absolutely can share that.
Any other
Amazing.
questions? Go ahead.
I was going to assume that no one else had any more questions. Megan, thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation and for taking the time to chat with us. It's really, really helpful to hear from you and learn more about your company. And if you do, and please do share those extra follow-up resources and we'll email them out. And feel free to hang out and listen to Shannon's if you want, or either way.
I will. Thank you so much for having me. I again just in awe at just seeing people having these discussions. That just warms my heart, and I'm so grateful that this is on everyone's agenda. 23 people in a room talking about food waste is just great. So thank you all for your time and your efforts. I super appreciate it, and I'm definitely going to hang back because I want to see what Shannon has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And Shannon, do you want to share your slides yourself?
Yeah, that way I can go through it a little bit quicker. And again, these will all be available because I'm a state employee and this is all available through public information regardless, but I'm happy to distribute this as always. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Shannon McDonald with the Maryland Department of the Environment. I'm one of the 2 individuals in the state that is responsible for the Maryland's wasted food law, so the food residual diversion law. And because of my unique situation within the Department of the Environment and executing this law and regulation, I had a lot of opportunity to meet with a variety of different, what we'll call waste generators, but really it's food residual generators, and determine kind of what pathways that they are struggling with. And then also in talking with various different food recovery organizations, some of the things that they have as hurdles as well. And I want to put out there, rather than putting a bunch of source text information in my presentation, I definitely hyperlink them in here. So they are embedded, the ones that I did not generate. But if you see an image here that does not have a hyperlink, note that these are something that either I've taken or we at Maryland Department of Environment have generated. So as you see in the sign right here, this is from the back of Harris Teeter in one of their sections, and it kind of is letting the person know what they as a corporation have decided that is acceptable to be diverted and how it's done. So these are standard signs that you see throughout grocery stores if they have a project in place. And typically they have worked with one of our food banks or a local rescue organization to develop that standard information. Again, these are more the larger programs that I'm talking about. So again, the Maryland Department of the Environment, our food residual diversion law kind of follows the similarity and in line with the wasted food scale that the EPA has put out this past year, or 2023, I should say now. Wow, it's been a while. But it's to source reduce, to feed people is a high priority, then animals, and then recycling, which goes down from composting and anaerobic digestion. So we are obviously going to be mostly talking about diversion, feeding of people. Within our state, we have 2 food bank service areas. And I think that one of the things that we potentially don't understand sometimes, and again, I know a lot of folks on this call right now are part of food distribution and access, but the overarching of Feeding America throughout the entire country, and then its partnerships with our food banks, and then beyond what is a food bank and a food pantry. And so what I've come across with corporations and those that are generating food residuals is this concept of, well, I'm a partner with the food bank. Well, I'm a partner with a local organization, or I don't know how to connect with someone. And what are those different gaps that exist throughout the state and also the region, not just the state. And I think that's really important and critical that people understand when we go out there, who they can connect with, how they can connect with them and not feel overburdened going one way or another. And then what is acceptable materials that food recovery organization is willing and capable of taking. So I put together a list of lots of different organizations. This is not all inclusive, but I just want to point out that we have a lot in our state, and they are a lot of varieties. So Food Rescue US that Megan mentioned is definitely one, but then there are other organizations that are outside of the traditional food pantry, things like the Baltimore Orchard Project, which is a gleaning organization. This is wild foods that have the ability to be recovered. And then there are food rescue organizations, and then Enoch Pratt Free Library recently became a free market. So again, there's a lot of different tiers and hierarchies within here, and they're kind of interblended, but we really don't have the whole picture of what's not a partner of a Feeding America program. And Meg, I'm saying that in the generality, but like part of the food banks here, and who is and who is not, and how much they can take and what they are willing and capable of receiving. And that's what we're trying to really work through as the state and then through the Food System Resiliency Council, so we can understand where those gaps are and how we can fill them and partner different programs so we can recover all that food if we can. One of the biggest things that I've found in talking with these food organizations and these food users, let's say, the ones that are under the food residual diversion law, is date labels. Understanding them. And I'm not calling out on a negative to Brunswick Food Bank by any means here, but I wanted to just illustrate something very local. This was right before Thanksgiving. And it really was just highlighting that they're saying, please don't bring expired foods. And date labels are such a stressful point in the food recovery portion of recovery for redistribution versus food recovery for feeding people versus food that is then sent for composting or anaerobic digestion. Additionally, what are acceptable foods? I have definitely coordinated some activities where we're trying to link up these food residual diversion producers, but how much material that they're producing might not be culturally appropriate or have a high nutritional value, even though it's a food residual. And so again, understanding how to partner with the best possible opportunity to recover that food and get it to people. I have spent a lot of time since the execution of this law to illustrate that the federal Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act changed. And it really does highlight that there is a lower, a lot more protection. And a lot of folks really don't comprehend this. And I have to keep iterating this over and over again. We put together, Maryland Department of Environment put together a food donation guide. We had a lot of help from the 2 different food banks to get their buy-in on this. So, and the 2 of the food equity councils so that they can give some more feedback on there. These are all linked within this presentation. But in it, it really just details like, how could you do the food donation? And that's a lot of work that we've done when we go out and visit these facilities, if they don't already have an existing infrastructure in place, but also ones that may have had one, but don't have a complete donation program. Again, sometimes it comes down to logistical challenges, but some of them just don't understand that liability protection that has been expanded and what opportunities exist. I'm really thankful that some of our federal partners are on this call today. I definitely invited them so they could just hear a little bit about this. I'm not calling them to participate, but it is a confusing landscape of authority at the federal level of date labels that we've come across by visiting these folks, and kind of not just the food residual diversion mandated persons, but also those that are part of the food recovery schema. And it's really coming down to that date label, because while the USDA and the FDA have prepared information on this, it's really who is the one responsible for ensuring that every single person understands what a date label is, and how can we increase this opportunity to not dissuade folks from purchasing these foods within the retail organizations or donating them and feeling safe about it. Because again, the safety date piece is really only related to infant formula in with the labeling itself. So what we found is there's like a lot of logistical challenges with donations, which you're all very well aware of. And I show these 2 pictures to highlight something that we found a lot when it comes to the food residual diversion law. We hear about the different organizations that come and pick up excess foods that could be recovered, that are edible. But what we're finding is, if it is a nonprofit or a church organization, let's say, that comes to a store, they don't have cold storage availability within that to properly transport it. And therefore, those foods can't be delivered and transmitted. And then when you do have the cold storage, they want to look at the larger bulk use, not the smaller pieces of it. So it's again, a logistical challenge and a puzzle that I know that the food banks do a great job in supporting. But again, it's these small pieces and these bigger pieces that all interplay together that really do have a lot of demand on the staffing of these food rescue organizations, getting it to the people who actually need the foods, and how can they do that appropriately and timing of the food recovery. So I put together kind of a list of what I think are the top ways to increase recovery and redistribution. I know and this is on behalf of the Food System Resiliency Council, a lot of stuff that we've talked about before in various different meetings, but I want to, share between the environment and production and distribution access and kind of all of these different groups. We kind of all talk about the same things. And I want to put that out there, that centralized food processing would be helpful, both either on a farm or at a central urban location, because that will help with the cold storage, the transformation, distribution, service, and then that potential for deep freezing. And then the workforce development. Again, I know there's really great programs out there, but if we can distribute them across the state, that's really important. And then again, the community participation, because the logistical challenges that are associated with everything we just talked about, having that community touch there will really help to amplify and provide more opportunity for to feed people. And that is my very brief but very packed presentation of information. And I definitely wanted to open this up to have some discussion. Jean, I'm stoked that you're here. Please talk.
Sorry about the wild glasses. I don't normally have them on camera, but thank you so much, Shannon. I did put in the chat the great news that USDA, FDA released this week a request for information for public comment for 60 days on food date labeling. So please spread the word. I included both the USDA and the FDA press releases. So really excited to get this out because we heard you. 95% of the public comments on the national strategy draft were on date labeling. So big deal. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Appreciate it, Jean. And then for those of you that don't know, Jean is the representative for the National Food Loss and Waste Strategy for the USDA, among other things. But I'll put that as a byline for this.
Probably, Shannon, probably everybody else knows, but I've always been under the impression the use by date is not really that you still can use it after that date. Is that not true?
So I'm gonna put up this right here, this little blurb that I've got in the presentation. This is directly, did it reopen into another thing? Let's see. This is directly from the USDA. And it puts right in their website on the federal page what date labelings, the phrases are. So use by is a date, the last recommended for the use of product while at peak quality. It's not about safety. It's about the quality, and then that quality can be contingent. So sometimes I think about this and a very long time ago when I lived in New Jersey and I knew all about Mars bars and M&Ms, why chocolate in America tastes different than it does in other parts of the world. And that all relates to, the spoiling of milk and the flavors that came from that in the production a very long time ago and how we have a different flavor now. So I try to think of that when it's the use by and the sell by, it's really on the taste that we're used to, not necessarily that it's unsafe to use it.
So Shannon, I guess my question's for you, but it's also for anyone running a food bank, a food pantry. How do we spread the word about what you just said about the use by dates? Because it's obvious. I mean, having grown up, I can remember saying, oh, you don't want to eat that. It's past the use by dates. Yeah. And I'm sure it looks like the example you gave from Brunswick, and I'm not pointing them out, but it seems like we're losing a lot of food just due to interpretation.
Yeah. I mean,
I think I
can speak to that a little bit. I mean, because I have a follow-up to this that I wanted to share, but, we have a lot of knowledge. We understand date labels. We are sorting food all the time. We are educating our volunteers on how to look at date labels and make those decisions correctly. There are websites out there that you can use as a consumer if you have stuff in your fridge that you're not sure about. There's a lot of resources out there. Problem is, it hasn't penetrated common knowledge. And so that is a question that's much bigger than what a food bank can do. And the reason I was also thinking about the same thing, Nancy, because before the pandemic, we worked with Community Food Rescue out of Montgomery County and did a research project for the Natural Resources Defense Council around how to rescue more food and get it into the hands of people who need it. And we spent a lot of time on the Bill Emerson law, for example, and made recommendations to Baltimore City, which I thought they put into place, but I'm not sure now. It's been a while that as health inspectors are going out to restaurants and other food preparers, that they would carry information about the Bill Emerson law to make sure that those producers are educated that yes, they can donate. Great idea. Not sure it's even still happening. But it needs, and part of this recommendation from us to, which was shared with Baltimore City, and there was some other cities that were doing this work as well at the time, was like, we need public information campaigns. We need marketing campaigns. We need incentives. We need to socialize these ideas that you can donate food. If it's hot food, here's how you do it. I mean, it's bigger than, Shannon's picking up this mantle. Thank you so much for doing it. But other people have picked it up before you, and unfortunately other people will have to pick it up after you because it's just we're not making a dent. And so I don't know, this is my thought for distribution and access was, is there a way that we can take this challenge and represent it with a solution so that we can start to make a difference in this space? Because it's going to need a collaborative effort. It's going to require financial resources, and it will make a difference in terms of the quantity and the quality of food that's rescued. So that part we already know. So how do we make the change?
Yeah, and Meg, I just want to point out one thing. The EPA is in the process of, and it's still open now for submission, but on a national campaign looking to establish the education outreach for the home on how to reduce those food residuals.
That's fantastic.
I'm sorry, not food residuals, like the wasted food. I'll say that way. And that I put the link to that that grant that is out for but they're going to be awarding one award for the whole nation for a portion of that, and that is on that the education of wasted food reduction at home.
Mm-hmm. Right. To that point, multiple sources, right? So you've talked different audiences. Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, I think I'm really thankful that there's the USDA and the FDA are open to the public comments relative to this, because I think, again, just like some of the other, I mean, I personally have a lot of upward battles with the Paperwork Reduction Act and the federal. Some of them are a little bit older, and I'm glad to see that a lot of these programs are being revised and updated for today's needs. And so I think this is another one of those today's needs, and the understanding of that information. Sometimes things were assigned, like again, the chasing arrows on any plastic bottle, and the misinterpretation of that long term.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my question also, I wanted to put out there, because again, mostly I participate in the environment production subcommittee. And if there's anything that I can share back relative to what you all are working and kind of synergize those efforts, because I think that a lot of what might be missed is the work that you all are doing, and then the sharing of what they're doing, and then maybe not mixing. And I'm hopeful, sharing some of the things that on the environment side, right? Like obviously this is the food residual diversion law within the regulatory side is where I'm coming from. But if there's any, things that we can kind of intersperse and integrate into our subcommittees, I think that's really a great pathway forward.
Thank you for bringing that up, Shannon. Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for the Distribution and Access Committee to also talk about like what you want to do as a committee in this food recovery space to address food insecurity, or some of the other goals that are outlined in your statute, and like where you see the dots connecting also between these two committees. We didn't talk much about any of the like Maryland, like local organizations that are doing some of the work in this space, like for instance, Maddox Community Fridges, or So What Else is one that Shannon had shared with me in the past, Manna Food Center. There are many. Is there anything that we want to talk about with those local level organizations?
I think there's many, but many people may not know where they are, who they are. So I think we need to start first with educating, because it's hard to talk about something when you really are not aware of where they are. Like today, I didn't realize that Misfit Food was part of Imperfect Food. I thought Imperfect Food was all by itself. And somebody put in the chat, which I know from past, this is so true, that sometimes people look at that label and they're afraid of food poisoning. So that's how do we get away from that stigma that goes along with that. And Shannon, one last thing, Beth, I see you have your hand up. I like what you brought up about working together at different committees, because the reason why I feel that is so strong, we're more powerful when we work together. Just like when we did our recommendation last year, we worked together on the cold storage issue. So I think we need to do that more and more. And I think the more people that come together, we have greater suggestions. Beth, I'm sorry, you can.
No, you're fine, Diana. Hi, everybody. Hi, Shannon. So Shannon, we've talked in the past about feeding livestock. I still haven't, I mean, I know I actually had them pull up the legislation of having to have a permit to feed livestock. Like, and I can't get the person that would be responsible for that to reply to me. So, you know what I mean? So I don't know, because
Yeah.
like we're trying to divert livestock, but I know I'm doing it legally. But there's things, there's obstacles.
Yeah, and I'll say that, you know, we're trying to work as state agencies to kind of clean up some of the roadblocks, but also, you know, we have our own limitations, right? It's in, and there are regulatory requirements for you know, different you know, when you think about for feeding of animals, but again, the highest and best value, of course, is the feeding of people. And so
Right.
things like the Upcycled Food Association and their different upcycling of foods that would potentially be going to feeding livestock might have a better opportunity to create a product that is saleable and useful throughout.
Okay, I'm trying to release this. The Farm Link project. Well, how can we, I mean, do we need to ask our legislators to change, to clarify that permitting a little bit more, or how to, I mean, when I talked to Lorg about it, she was totally surprised that there was legislation about feeding livestock.
I will say that is outside of the Maryland Department of Environment's lane, and so, and I myself am not, I'm you know, specifically not in the legislative branch, so I can't speak on behalf of that.
I got it. Anybody else have any answers? Let me know.
And I'll also say, I think, Diana, one of the things that I was kind of hoping to learn a little bit more from the distribution and access subcommittee is that filling of those gaps, right? Where are those different organizations that are not part necessarily of the food banks, but are still really actively engaging in food rescue and recovery, and understanding where those locations are. And I think that was something that we're all trying to work towards, understanding where they exist, what their capacities are, and then how we can kind of create a better map of availability and meshing of those. Because I'll say that on a daily basis, I do ask, you know, hear from folks when I go to their facilities, where can I bring this excess food to? And I don't want to just again say like, well, have you contacted the food bank yet? Like, because that's not the answer that I want to give. I want to say like, here is a map of different organizations. Please check locally and look at the food donation program.
We have several hands up.
I think Megan is
yours up
first.
first. Yeah.
Hi, Shannon. I have a quick question. What we're talking about the confusion about the dates and how that sometimes can lead some uncertainty with people about food poisoning. Like, what's the reasoning behind using one or the other? Like, why would someone use a use by date versus a best by date? And like, when I'm looking at tackling problems, like I think getting why that information into consumers' hands might also help with that, because I don't know why someone would use a best by date versus a use by date, and that might help shed some clarification. So I would really like to know if there's like a reason why, or if it's just specific to whoever's making the product.
So I put the link to what the USDA had in the chat, because of where they came from and how they are assigned. But again, the only one that has the use by with a requirement is infant formula. But then, you know, some of them have the best by because they're related to like the dairy products, right? Because again, thinking about, I'm using the reference of chocolate, which is probably not the best reference when it comes to food. But when we think about the taste of chocolate, the best use by would be along those lines. And then for sell by, sometimes those are meat because those are higher quality, like the flavor tasting, but they're not a streamlined, as far as I'm aware of.
Meg, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Two things. One, I wanted to just point everyone to the comment that Carol just dropped into the chat about the new California law, which is a solution to exactly this issue of having multiple different labels. Looks like a very clear next step. So that is something we should take a look at. And then I was going to offer Shannon, when we did the research for Natural Resources Defense Council, we did the same landscape scan to try to find food rescue organizations. So I'll share the report out with you. They're hard to find. They're small. They're not well publicized. I can't remember off the top of my head how successful we are, but we do have a report that has that in there. So I'll send that over to you so you have it.
And I thought also that one of our recommendations was to, because I agree with you, Shannon, that sometimes it's better just to give people, these are the people that are doing distributions, right? Because there's a lot of distribution sites out there that are not associated with food banks. But I thought one of our recommendations was to have a statewide mapping. I know that's a lot, and it would be, I know that Maryland Food Bank has already started, they have it, but I was just wondering about that.
Sorry, Daniela has her hand up and so does Jack. And then I want to come back to the map.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to share that in the project on University of Maryland called NourishNet, we created a video of 1 minute that we're disseminating through food pantries. And so our project is not even ready yet for beta testing, but the first video that we launched was on understanding food date labels. And it's available for anyone in English and Spanish on the website that I put on the chat. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have met several of you before. For those who don't know me, my name is Jack Ewert. I work at the Montgomery County Food Council. I apologize for being camera off. There's construction happening in my house right behind me, and it's more just distracting to myself to have to look at more than anything. But I just wanted to chime in and say that the Food Council has started, and Carol knows this well, has started in the past year getting more into this space around food waste prevention and recovery. And next week on Wednesday, the 11th at 1 p.m. we'll actually be hosting a call and presentation about some of these topics. I know several people in this call received that invite and are already registered for it, but something I'm really excited about is that we will hear a presentation. Over the past several months, we worked with an American University student named Noe Doherty on his practicum project, and he focused on doing an inventory of food waste here in Montgomery County. So I just wanted to highlight that we'll be having that meeting next week. And I'm going to drop the Zoom registration in the chat. And you're obviously welcome to reach out to me with any questions. And I know a lot of you have access to Michelle Caruso's email as well. So you're welcome to reach out to her with any questions also. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack and Daniela. Do you want to talk about the map and where that ties into this, Diana? Do you say more?
You can.
Nancy, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I haven't fully formulated a thought regarding the map, but the thing that's I think on my mind is I'm curious to the distribution and access committee if you want to touch base with environment and production and see if there's a recommendation there for this food labeling issue, because I see that it touches the scope of work that both of you are addressing.
Yes, on that. And with the mapping, one of the things that had come in our conversation is just being able to maintain it. How would it be able to be maintained? Because we know so many different times you put together a manual and next week it's out of date.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be maintained. And I think in our recommendation, if I'm not wrong, I think we put a monetary amount with it to be able to do it. And we still have we're not sure where it would be housed. So there's a lot of questions around that. My concern, again, is what I just said, is just it being continuously updated, because we know that's a lot. But and to address your question, Annika, yes, I think we should come together on the labeling and see how we can move forward with that.
So I would agree with that, Diana. And I guess my question to you, Shannon, is what are some immediate steps that aren't monetary related, but that and might be as simple, I don't want to say as simple, but maybe some of us can find some horsepower to put behind them or whatever that would help you with this, because I don't want to have this conversation a year from now. I'm starting to get really antsy.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that, like, even related to cold storage, that I think that we keep having over and over again. And like, what is some ways to do it at the lowest possible mechanism to start to really gather that framework of where we are in snapshots in time. Because again, it's going to be a snapshot at all times because of lots of different reasons, whether again, it is staffing, it's the funding or whatnot. But I do think that because the council had established, the Food System Resiliency Council had established the reach and request to extend on local food equity councils. At the very least, the ones that exist can do a snapshot of where their own areas have food recovery organizations. And again, just to be aware of them within their own geologic footprint, let's say, or geographic footprint. And then geographic footprint. And then also relative to the cold storage, again, it's that comprehensive understanding of like, where is their cold storage and what is it? And like when we, again, are trying to think of like where we need to reach out to these organizations to see, do they need more? Could they get more? How dated is it? It's just these little snapshots in time. And I think that the food equity councils might be the best foot forward of that, because if I go at it from as a regulator, I will say that I will not get as much feedback. Most of you know me, you know that I'm not the traditional regulator, but I do think that like in general, most people, when an MDE walks in the room, they kind of get quiet. And so I think that the on the grounds, that the closer hands touch would be really helpful. And if I would happily summarize it and put it together in some sort of, digestible and something that could be useful. But again, I think it's at the closer to home that would be the most useful at this time.
Meg, I see you have your hand up, and then Teresa.
Thanks, Diana. I really like that idea a lot, Shannon, and I think that one of the things, well, let me say this first. So rescuing more food that would potentially be wasted is an environmental act, first and foremost. And it sometimes also benefits people who are food insecure, but it's not always, right? So it's got to be the right kind of food. It's got to be in good shape, yada, yada. So I feel like this is, if we were to do something, if we were to co-author a recommendation with environment and production, I think we'd have a slightly different spin on it from our distribution and access perspective. I think very important. So I just want to say that out loud, which is, I'm sure everyone's thinking the same thing there. Back to the Food Council, the Food Policy Council outreach idea. One of the things that we haven't done in a while in this committee is workshopped something. And so that idea will only work well if the questions are really good. If the survey instrument is really strong, right? So what's going to work for Megan and Imperfect Misfit Foods is not the same thing that's going to allow someone to come in and pick up fresh produce that came from a farm, right? Different activity sets. So we'd have to design an instrument that captured both, because from an environmental perspective, you obviously want to capture both. So, and I don't know that we have, I don't know our collective skills well enough to know whether we have survey design skills on this subcommittee, but I think we'd want to bring in or have access to somebody that could help us do that and do it really well, so that the survey holds up and gets us the information that we really want and is usable. Because it will, and I think Nancy, just to this is my experience, 12 years in this work, this is a perennial problem. Like, it hasn't gone away, which is really hard to say out loud. And but I think if we level set on, like you were saying, Shannon, like I think of it at crawl, walk, run. Like, we're going to make it better. We're going to make it better. We're going to make improvements. I think that would be something to really celebrate.
Teresa, you're on mute.
Thank you. First of all, I was thinking about the Center for a Livable Future, and I don't know if anybody's on the call from CLF, but they had the map that they sunsetted. And so I think the Maryland Food Bank is the only kind of regularly updated look at hunger in pantries and all of that in the state. Is that correct?
And those would be the part of the programs within the food banks that would be on those maps. So wouldn't tip Meg, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it would not be anyone that would not be a participant within the food bank on your maps.
Correct. It's just it's only our partners. And also Capital Area Food Bank also has a map for Montgomery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyone, but Teresa, outside of that, there are all of these other programs, and those are kind of the ones that are like really looking at those sell by use by dates.
Right.
Okay. Is this the CLF map Teresa is talking about? I will check that out. It is. Is it there?
It's there. So they have all of the data still available if you have ArcGIS and you can use that data. It's just that it's no longer being maintained by someone.
That's what I thought. So it's ended at a particular place in time. Then the other question I was having was if there could be a survey, if distribution and access and environment if there could be somebody to work on a survey, and then that could be disseminated to the food councils, and then the food councils could put that out and do the research, and it would give direction for what gathering data we need to be doing in our areas, kind of giving food councils kind of marching orders to help get the information and put something together. Just a thought.
I'm gonna ask Lisa if she's willing to be put on the spot to talk about Frederick County's carrot project, because I got to listen to them speak about that with NAFSN, and I know that they have done some work with that. Lisa, do you know if other food councils are interested in doing that kind of like community assessment?
We are. I know Western Maryland, we definitely are.
Yeah, I just want to comment on Teresa's, because one of the things our food council just decided to apply for some funding to do an updated catalog of, food distribution entities in our county. So the Oshman Family Foundation had done that during COVID, but we're not sure that that's being kept up to date. The county had a map, but it has been archived. It was only up for a brief period during COVID. So we're trying to kind of sort out where things are and move forward on that. The Carrot Initiative, is this, Annika, is this like start from scratch and talk about it, or do people know about it?
I think people know about it.
Okay. And so your question is, do we know if other entities are interested? Is that the question?
Yeah, and are some of the questions or indicators that are involved in the carrot, do they answer some of the questions that are coming up in this conversation right now regarding
yeah, it's been
surplus
a while since I've actually carefully looked at all the indicators, but yeah, they definitely do have indicator questions about this. And our last cohort meeting for the 2024 pilot group, we learned that there is going to be another round and that they're focusing on offering the carrot, another carrot to entities that are geographically close to the carrot pilots of 2024. So I know that they're very interested in expanding it throughout Maryland. And as for like where we are with the process, for better or worse, we've been partnering with Data Driven Frederick with Hood College, and I actually kind of personally feel it's slowed us down quite a bit, but we're aiming to have all our indicators ranked and have some kind of a report by February. Teresa, I can send you an email, Teresa, about the coordinators, and just probably I'm sure they'll be sending out something to all the food councils in terms for the next pilot year, but I can connect you with Kim Hines and yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you, Lisa.
So Nancy, I don't want to overspeak to the environment protection group, and I don't, Diana and Greg, I know you guys are the co-chairs for this one, but if there was a way to send around like questions that were most important within your own subcommittees to be answered, I think, collecting those is really important to start that foundation of them, to see what cross questions there are. And then also, again, not to make it lengthy, something that is very quick to fill out, that has the least amount of effort in there, and then the consistency across the board.
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Shannon.
Yeah. And then just to scope this out for a second, since we're all here, we're really and this goes back to your question, Teresa, we don't have on our map, we wouldn't have food rescue organizations that are independent, right? Because even though we're a food bank and we do rescue food, we are more focused on food insecurity than food rescue. But we're really focusing on food rescue specifically. So we don't want to get tangled up, and I'm saying this, correct me or take this and make it better. We're not asking about food pantries or food distribution sites. We're really talking about independent food sources. And this is where the scope matters, right? So grocery retail chains are already donating food or they're not, right? So, I mean, like how we got to scope it a little bit. It's not really like I think it's hard to just throw questions out without us, like, what is the outcome that we're trying to achieve?
So
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so for what I'm trying to achieve, obviously, is the idea of like, where are the gaps for the organizations to donate to recover from, so that surplus edible food could be recovered, that don't already have those pathways. That's MDE, right? Like, this is part of that, to support those that are regulated under the food residual diversion law, that specific lane. However, within the Food System Resiliency Council, and understanding where there is the resilience to recover foods and distribute them, that is, I think, a really critical piece to the sustainable connectivity around the state. Because while the two food banks are doing an excellent job at connecting these larger entities, we still want to be able to support those non-food bank programs to help the communities in which they are located.
Yeah, so there you scope, so non-food bank affiliated programs that are rescuing all food types.
No, that could rescue.
Or
And that could rescue because they don't know where they are or where they exist. So what it would do, it would empower them to have a list of saying, oh, this place in Baltimore is not associated with a food bank, but they need food. Let me see if the person that has the surplus could make that connection to supply it to them. Right? Am I getting it correctly?
Yeah, because I'll say that, again, there are limitations to being, and not in any slight way, but like, there's limitations to being part of the food bank if you don't have the capacity to get to those standards, but you still would like to recover some foods and distribute them. And so it's finding that gap and filling it. But again, I understand that when we make this list, it is a snapshot, and it's the idea of how do you maintain that as a food equity council to recover foods, to serve the foods that are capable and able.
And then I see Megan has her hand up. Can we, Megan?
Hi, Shannon. Yes, speaking of, you hit the nail on your head in your presentation for those smaller groups, that transportation and storage is two of the biggest hurdles that they have to get past. Just working through different donation suppliers here, sometimes I have things that I can give that they don't have refrigeration or they don't have a truck big enough. So I just think thinking about how to help with those two resources would really help get that into those non-food bank or those smaller organizations, because sometimes they have a room or they have a kitchen that they rent once a week or something like that to be able to reach the community.
Yeah, and I think right there, Megan, is exactly what I'm driving at, is in order to get to the point of where you might be a food bank partner, there's like a stepping stone. And so understanding who those are out there, and how the Food System Resiliency Council maybe in future recommendations can, determine where cold storage is needed, how could we fund that, what kind of distribution, workforce development, like those are pieces that we're trying to develop in these puzzles throughout the state, and in a sustainable manner as well, because we know that if we rely on one organization and they don't have that capacity to do so, then it doesn't have that potential to stay. And even as a state agency, as different people retire, things can, fall to the wayside.
mm-hmm.
And I know I'm only speaking locally here in Anne Arundel County. They're not accepting any more distributions because they're at capacity. So sometimes you have those organizations that want to do well and do and serve the community, but because of the limitations or where we're at now, they're unable to get the food. I'm concerned about, as we move forward, and the farms and the gleaning from the farms and getting the food, with the lack of people being able to do that, is that going to slow down us? Is that going to just take that process away, and will more food go unsaved, for lack of a better word. Did that make sense, what I just said?
I'm tempted to put Mark Powell on the spot a little bit if Mark is still on the call to talk about the Maryland Food Donation Program for farmers, because I feel like that is really relevant to this conversation. It hasn't come up yet, that Maryland is very special in that we offer a tax incentive for farmers to donate their surplus foods to charitable organizations and give them full retail price for that, up to $5,000 a year. Mark?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still trying to answer Beth's question on the food waste. Yes, we have a food donation program and encourage farmers to do it. Essentially, they work with a food bank or food pantry that's been, they simply have to sign a form and with us that indicates that I think the key thing they have to indicate is that they have scales, registered scales, and have addressed food safety in some fashion. So, and then the Maryland Food Bank does a great job. Amy Cawley works with farmers, and they, she does the forms for the farmers, actually, the food banks and food pantries technically are supposed to do the forms for the farmers. Sometimes the farmers do them themselves, working with the food pantry, depending on their situation. But we issue tax credits, which is a simple process. We have one of the staff folks here in marketing goes through, looks at the values. We use the Jessup wholesale market prices to determine the tax credit value. There was legislation that increased it to 100% of the value from previously, I think it was 70% organic and then 50 for non-organic, but now it's 100%. So anyway, we've never used the entire amount allotted to us, which is $100,000 in tax credits. This past year, I'm just working on a report that General Assembly, I think it's right at 68, and I think last year was 70. So yeah, it's a great program. I don't, Meg, do you, you guys are probably our biggest participant at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing it for years, and I was actually going to throw that in the chat, that I'm glad you said that. My understanding was that the program had never been fully spent yet, and it is an amazing program, and it is really easy to participate for farmers. So, and you don't have to. I think you can be, again, as long as you meet the Department of Agriculture requirements, anyone can participate. So it is open to any farmer, which is great. So it is something. Thanks for raising it, Annika. I think it's something that we should be really proud of as a state, and we should be aiming to spend all that money.
Yes.
Spend it down.
Yep.
Meg, do you think that's something we need to present at farmers meetings so they know?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we did. So that was kind of a knock on us, actually, that we weren't promoting it enough. So we have stepped up promotion of it. It's something that we mention at whenever we go to any sort of public meeting of farmers. But if you guys have any ideas or anywhere that you'd like us to promote it and talk about, I'd be glad to, for sure.
Is there a cute little flyer we can hand out?
There is, yeah. And I'm gonna put something in the chat here about it.
So I was going to ask, with the last few minutes for this committee meeting, I feel like this has been a productive conversation, but also has covered a lot of ground. And I'm wondering if there are some next steps that we want to document here for beginning to translate this into recommendations in the new year.
Sorry, I was answering Beth's question. Sorry.
I think one of the things that we need to do is we do need to get together with the what was it, the bullet points, and pass it around to see if we have any things that we can bring together that was suggested to all the other two subcommittees.
And I'm wondering if Lisa could provide some of the questions that they looked into from the carrot tool, like pull out some of those areas that cover this.
So how would you like me to do that? Like distribute that? Just send it.
Maybe just send it to Annika. Maybe
Okay.
Annika could share it with us then, because I'm thinking that would be a good place to start the questions that you answered. Because I know there's hundreds of questions on that tool, but you know the ones that deal with food recovery, and maybe some questions for the people that worked on that. I don't know how you're completing the tool, but I'm thinking you have groups of people that are working on different questions and maybe other issues that arose as you worked on that area.
Yeah, I'm happy to extract those and share them. I can send them to you, Annika. And as I said, we're still wrapping up the data collection, so we haven't done any analysis yet. But happy to share those. You know, we didn't, sometimes, you know, we found some of the way the questions were worded kind of a little bit awkward. We asked for four of our own questions related to each of the indicators, so I'll share those as well. And yeah, so I'm happy to do that.
Another step
Yeah,
that
because
I
I think that's what we're just looking for, the questions right now,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can try to put together a survey maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So the way the indicators work, they're not posed as questions, but you'll see when I send them. Yeah. And then, you know, we asked questions about each of those indicators. I guess they're sort of questions, but you'll see what they look like. Yeah.
I think another thing that, Annika, to answer your question, I don't really know how to put it in words, but we need to explore the use by date and what exactly do we need to do to get it for people to understand. I agree with, I think it was Teresa or someone that just said, I don't want to be here next year and addressing the same issue. So we've heard this. So now it means that we need to research it and see if we can do something about it.
Yes, that's exactly where I just went to, was who can we talk to in California who was behind putting that legislation together, and just then we emulate what they did over here, because that solves the root problem. It's not about educating. You can't educate people on 4 different use by things. Like even smart people tune out at that at some point. So solving the root is great. It looks like California did it. Like, can we be the second state in the country to do it?
Great.
But I don't know how to find that person in California or that department in California that did that. Anybody have any ideas or suggestions? Or the other thing I was thinking too, to Shannon, to getting you to getting to your questions, we haven't done this before, but is anyone willing to work on a little work group in between meetings to take these things and kind of pull them forward so that we're not trying to meet and do work in a large group meeting?
I find small work groups work best.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we come to the large work group, we have a direction. I would be willing to do it. It's just fitting it in the schedule, but I would be willing to be a part of it. Beth?
Me too.
Okay, well, we're at time, but I feel like this has been really helpful, and I'm going to put together meeting minutes as usual and get the recording posted to the website as soon as I can. But I can also follow up about this suggestion to divide and conquer a little bit as well as we're transitioning more into the recommendations development process for the next report. Shannon, did you have something you wanted to throw in?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow one other thing. So one of the things that I've noticed that maybe more folks in the environment and production group are a part of, but perhaps not as many people within distribution access. There is a national program that's called a national work group called the Food Too Good to Waste that is hosted by Claudia Fabiano within the EPA. And it is a really great way to learn about different programs that have been executed across the nation, small, big, large, and they have great references. And if anyone is interested in joining that group, please feel free to send me an email because it does require someone to connect you with Claudia to be a part of it. But send me an email. You'll get the references to my information if you don't already have it, it's in the chat. But I would love for anyone to join that because I think there's such great resources out there across the nation on how to execute similar programs. And I really hope that as many people to participate in these and just listen in and poke around their website.
Shannon, I would like to.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Wishing you all a good afternoon and hope to see some of you tomorrow and on Monday for the other two meetings this month.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Danica.